Hello, everyone. Welcome to our final Poetry Kitchen of the year. This is the last one, Felton Eaddy's Poetry Kitchen. I'm Leah Trzelski. I'm the Executive Director of Hammond's House Museum, and so we do welcome you this evening on this Friday night. So we don't know what part of the country you're in, so whether or not it's chilly where you are, because I know in some parts of the country it's actually snowing, or whether it's fairly warm. So down here in Atlanta, it's fairly warm. So we're happy. I couldn't be happier about the weather. So we wanted to go ahead and get started. But before we get started with our amazing poets this evening, I wanted to go ahead and take care of the housekeeping for the Hammond's House Museum. So there are plenty of people that we need to thank for just really supporting us during this time of COVID, during this time of uncertainty, and just during this year. And so we really, really do appreciate our supporters. So let me just first start with our more corporate supporters, or our other entities, governmental entities like Fulton County, under the auspices of the Fulton County Arts Council, the Community Foundation of Greater Atlanta, AT&T, Warner Media, and the City of Atlanta Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs have all been extremely, extremely supportive of the Hammond's House Museum during this time. We can't leave out the National Performance Network, who have sponsored our exhibitions that we've done this year. And we also cannot leave out our donors and our members, because it is those small donations of $25 a month, $10 a month, or even the larger donations of $5,000 for the year or $2,500 for the year that have really, really also helped to keep the Hammond's House Museum moving during this year. It's been a tough year. And earlier this year, it was looking a little, didn't really know how that was going to work out. But, whether we would have to furlough staff, whether we would have to, close our doors, it was really that tenuous. But because of the support of members and donors, as well as the supporters that I've mentioned earlier, we have been able to really work through this year. So we want to say thank you. We do appreciate it. And if you want to continue to support the Hammond's House Museum, if you're not already a supporter, please go to our website at hammondshouse.org and donate. So at this point, I am going to turn it over to Robbie Wyndham, and I also would just have to say that I got new puppies, and so the barking that you heard in the background are the puppies saying, "Why are you doing that instead of playing with me?" So that's want to let everyone know that that's what's happening in the background here at my home. But I'm about to go on mute and bring Robbie Wyndham up so she can start to introduce our guests as we wait for Felton Eaddy, because, the one thing about this whole virtual space, like I'm at home, you hear my puppies in the background, and Felton having a few internet issues. And so he's working through those issues so that he can join us as well. But we're going to go ahead and get this poetry session started. So ladies and gentlemen, please let me welcome to our stage, Robbie Wyndham.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Felton Eaddy's Poetry Kitchen, The Last Supper. And yes, we are so excited. This is the last Poetry Kitchen for the year. And we've had a wonderful year given the situation of this year. So anyway, we appreciate you all hanging with us this evening, hanging with us all year. And we look forward to many more things coming in the future. So I have the distinct pleasure to introduce our first poet, who is Miss Gwendolyn Faulkner-Holley. Gwendolyn is a retired educator who lives in Conyers, Georgia. She is currently at work on her first short story collection and preparing her poetry for future publication. While teaching, she was responsible for creating a creative writing class that grew in popularity among the students and had to be extended to 2 classes. She is a former member of the First World Writers Incorporated, an organization which promoted the creation of original pieces of literature as well as performed across the city of Atlanta. Writing is Mrs. Faulkner-Holley's lifelong desire to communicate with others as her passion for life. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Gwendolyn Faulkner-Holley.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. The first poem I want to bring to you is about a very special lady. It's my mother-in-law. And when I first met her, I used to wonder about if she felt the same way about relationships that I did. And hopefully this poem kind of captures one of those incidents with us. It's called My Mother-in-Law's Ring. From her sickbed, she instructed me to take it, pressed upon me the need to have it safe, and the desire to give me something better than I had been given from her before. I promised safety until the time it would flash again upon her long brown finger and revive the memory of events better left for those who have passed beyond caring. Later, I would rub the silver edges, trying to make images appear like a genie in a bottle, only to find that those stories were locked inside the solitary diamond nestled in an engraved cross. But oh, I longed to know all women's loving has, if all women's loving has been the same, and why we continue to seek that which does not seem made for us. One story told in jest returned to me. Every year, every New Year's Eve, I rushed to the bar we owned. I wore bright red dresses because the tones danced upon my smooth brown skin and spoke to him as only my youth could do. Always, I would hear the ticking of the clock, see the big Roman numbers with big black hands racing toward the mark. I would quicken my pace, round the corner, and hear the music's pumped up volume. Then I would steal a moment to remember the feel of his lips, arm strength, lifting me, touching, oh, so gently, like I was fine glass. The bouncers knew me, sent the message to him and all that I was there. The people parted like the waters of Egypt. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. I stepped to a rhythm heard only by me. The red dress played gracefully around my hips, brushed the backs of my full calves, and nothing, nobody else mattered. 5, 4, 3, 2, because his lips brushed mine, lingered so gently, I inhaled my love, him, who would later find his way to her. But that kiss was always reserved for me. One, Happy New Year! And because we all do fall in love and out of love, and when we're young, and sometimes when you grow older, those memories are so very special. And that's why I included tonight Amid Raindrops for a special friend. I've never written love poems because even when the love is good, I walk on an eggshell thin abyss, hoping cracks won't appear. I don't write love poems because the residue of love is pain, and there has been too much of that. But if I did write love poems, I'd say, we made love on rough carpets after dark to the sounds of city crickets and frustrated moths while pretending the plants were African foliage. We made love amid raindrops and through the pages of books. Our love was rooted in every idea, argument, and jokes only we understood. It was sharing and giving, walks in the park, not long enough summer drives, and bittersweet wintertime kisses. And now that the cracks have appeared and we stumble through the fragileness, love is the goodbye that is never quite said. I have been so turned in and out these last 4 years of our political situation. And one day I just felt so much frustration that I wanted to say something about the condition we're in right now. So I wrote, counting assholes, counting minutes, seconds, moments, counting curses, then forward smiles, counting silence and rhetoric. A silent contemplation strengthens backbones, bound by what is unsaid and done, steeled against rhetoric over 400 years of alienated and suspended progress, forgetting people who are really people who are people in injustice, counting months, days, years over and over and over and over again, finding no one, not one single being who knows exactly what to do and exactly when to do it. Only those with buttonhole lips that morph into assholes when pressed for truth and abstract reality has gone on vacation, never returning until volcanic ash smothers the last trees, shrubs, and flowers, until the last baby cries while tiny nostrils fill with smothering dust and silence, until the last semblance of recognizable intelligence fulfills prophecy. The globe warms, cherry red like old time stoves. Where is the other standard that exists not in this political cup of soup, but within individuals who look toward themselves and into themselves, who know that to be given much leads to expectation of much? Where does that concept hide? Can we coax it into the open so that it can breathe and spread, morph into possibilities? So those who believe can plan and implement until thought gains foothold, flourishes like a clean, heady breeze before the appearance of man. I once had to return to my birthplace, and I didn't want to. And I was kind of forced to do that. But the years that I spent there, I came to understand why it was necessary. And so I entitled this poem Resistance. Of course I resisted, flinging away your assurance like week old biscuits, standing firmly rooted in the belief that you never knew the land talked of long ago moments that lifted the smell of weekday dinner among the treetops, of a drift of air carrying little girls' laughter across a dusty yard. Creaking floorboards, speak those names and call them silently home. Those floors tell secrets and hold certain truths. Time capsuled through a sagging door lay the dreams and love sighs of family. Grown beyond the morning cabinets, I couldn't see that you saw the continuation. Past the blindness of grief, I fought rising passive resistance, denying the land its value and you your wisdom. I fought beyond the reasons growing inside me. You insisted that we go, fill the void, to drape life atop the windowsills, to catch glimpses of the shadows that were parents' friends, and then links to the past into the future. Lulled by the sound of tearing Christmas paper, boys and girls planning life. Planning life. I'm sorry. Boys and girls planning life, building dreams and smoked turkeys, tender to touch. A release sigh gathered with the ancestors, then blew away dust and rearranged the sagging door, cleansing human breath, restoring peace, reviving the reason we live until the next generation answers. One of the hardest losses that I've had within the last few years was the death of my husband. And I have been on a journey by myself for a while. But sum up just what that meant to me in this poem. It's called For Such a Time as This. For William K. Holley Jr., My Life's Love. I was not in the room for your last breath, nor was I hovering in the hallway waiting through those moments. I was somewhere praying a prayer of desperation, hoping that God really had other plans for us, that I could tell you the next day that I finally hit 15 life saves. I was always your shero. And you would tell me that I was lying, even as you hid a smile from my searching eyes. Had I been allowed to be with you in the room while they pinched a little bit of your flesh to test for disease, I could have held on to the notion that I could pull you back from whatever looked so pleasing on the other side. I would not have been exchanging comfort with our child and desperately calling nieces who are nurses and social workers to find out if there were any hope, instead of waiting for the medical professionals and trying to read their eyes. I did not know them, could not read them properly, in truth, did not really trust them because you were slipping away from all that we knew. We would not have called in our family, and they would not have had to bear witness to our agony at your departure. If only I were there to call you back. So when they let us go to you, you were already on a new path where we could not follow, where you walked alone except for the grace of God. And I, your wife, lover, friend, confidant, am left holding our family, searching for your scent, listening for your steps, or to hear you say, "Good morning, baby," that will never come again, except that it is seared into those memories we built. And I am left to find solace in those brief moments stashed away for such a time as this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Gwendolyn. That was beautiful, especially the last one is very beautiful. Thank you so, so much. All right. Okay, so now I have the pleasure of introducing. Felton is still coming on in, so we're going to just be patient on our brother. But until then, I have the pleasure to introduce our next poet, Mr. Robert Earl Price. Blood Flow is Robert Earl Price's fifth volume of poetry. Publications include the Atlanta Review, Snake Nation Review, the Chattahoochee Review, Negro Digest, and Drum Voices, and he has conducted readings in Berlin, Havana, and Johannesburg. Also, a playwright with 12 full length plays produced. Wow. Among his prizes and notices for poetry and playwriting are two NEA fellowships, the American Film Institute's William Wyler Award for Screenwriting, and a Kenny Award for a musical theater production, Red Devil Moon. The activist nature of his work is rooted in the Black arts movement and steeped in African cultural and musical traditions. Ladies and gentlemen, please let me introduce you, Mr. Robert Earl Price.
Good evening. I'd like to thank everyone involved in seeing this production come to life. Poets are so rarely heard these days. We welcome the opportunity to read to someone, even if it is virtual. The first poem I'm going to read tonight is called Ugly Beauty. It's for the American Clipper ships. I currently live on near the Chesapeake Bay, and there are many celebrations for the American Clipper ship, or the Baltimore Clipper as it's known around here. But Thelonious Monk wrote a tune that I think describes those ships. It's called Ugly Beauty, because I know the history of the Clipper ships in the slave trade. Ugly Beauty. Such works of wonder anchored to such tawdry deeds. Sea kites, elegant blends of air and speed. Sea kites, trailing the putrid aroma, the savage scent of greed. They fled Lawanda, all sails set, a swoosh of grace. A Baltimore clipper fleeing that heathen place. Blockade warships pretended to give chase, although none could keep a pace with American ingenuity and its swoosh of flowing grace. Oh, they fled the Gold Coast scudding, gun whales nearer flooding, fishes feasting on their charm, and from below a tight-packed human hum. A song so soundly wrought that whales and dolphins took note. And when the heavens heard the song that the cargo wrote, clouds swelled the sea, threatening to swamp the boat. A swirling wind taunted sailors in the rigging, and from the bilge below, a humming moan. Oh, you should have heard the moan. Jam in the middle passage groan. They fled Lawanda laden, a cargo of breathing gold. Sardined humans shackled in the hold. Aboard a ship of bondage, under a sail of cloud, a village uprooted and set adrift. A familiar night stolen by the shifting sky, a starry bridge from Southern Cross to drinking gourd. A name, a headless man, a child, a life casually tossed overboard, a swift sea change from someone else to somewhere else. Oh, such a ship of beauty linked to such an ugly deed, shackled people inside a swoosh of grace and speed. Auctioneers waiting by the Charleston holding pens, waiting for the clipper ships unlading and the bidding to begin. Builders and outfitters all along the way, divvying up the slave trade pay. Beauty skipping over the waves, in the whole crammed, humming slaves. One party's profit is another party's pain, playing jazzy contradictions in a profit margin game, with freedom and fairness still on the lam. A blued morning swoosh, humming the ugly beauty jam. A blued moaning swoosh, humming the ugly beauty jam.
Yeah, baby.
This next poem is called Through the Fog. It's for Amiri Baraka. This poem, well, every time I read it, every day that I was trying to make it into a poem, I thought of Baraka. It's called Through the Fog. It is never wholly an epiphany, more like an acceptance of something you've known all along. The uglies are out there. You've heard them in things mumbled, things that were not meant for your ears, a portrait that you sat for but weren't supposed to see. Maybe they didn't hear you come in, or they mistake you for the help and speak in that clipped voice. The voice that breaks your day, grinds your past into particles of invention, potions that you cannot swallow. A stink in the swirling haze. Something smells like past due reparations, like 40 tastefully gentrified acres emblazoned with wrought iron mules. The ugly speak of war the way we speak of making love. Everybody knows who they are and what they do. And if it didn't happen, it is their fault. And if it did happen, it is because they did it. and you suspect that they're pretending to be crazy. Because real crazy dresses nice, uses good grammar, but's a terrible dancer. Yet they say, try to see it the way we see it. Once you were for sale, now you are for rent. You have salvaged bits of your original self, pieces of what was there before you were shanghaied, imported, traded for supplies. They are difficult to hear through static and harder to keep in sight, yet you know they are waiting. You know they are out there, just around the corner, waiting. Tolling bells faintly heard, echoes from worlds unseen, a fifth dimension broadcasting with the volume real low. Still, you catch wisps of wicked licks from wise axemen trading fours at 3 a.m., harnessing lost time in a lazy backbeat, smoky hoodie-eyed, carefully marking those places to be caressed later. You ignore the evidence, salvaged from countless betrayals, subtle warnings, never cause for a panic, just chalkboard squiggles to jangle your nerves, a hangnail with a drawl like chewed tobacco. Your skin is slivered moonlight, and you have tried to vanish unseen before the streetlights start winging like beckoning hookers. Psst, over here. Here's where you want to be. You stand alert in the rattling quiet, a silence that lingers until atheists disturb the stillness with prayer. And you know that the ugly is out there, always out there, because ugly needs you, desires you, wants your head to swivel like a flush, to swirl like a flush toilet. You can't pull its name from the tip of your tongue, something you meant to say. Maybe it was a ghoul or a ghost that doused you in a chilled sweat, tried to make you forget that uglies are lurking. They are hungry, begging you to feed them, smiling at you like they think they're pretty. But you've seen them naked, and you know they want to blanket you in fog and fondle your secrets. Last poem. I wrote this poem on New Year's Eve last year. It didn't predict anything. It didn't say anything. It was just my feeling a year ago, nearly a year ago. On the eve of a new year. Tonight, on the rim of a new day, I am a griot from the patchwork dimension, a fable cobbled from lies and streaming insinuations, a song that I cannot sing, a dance that cannot be repeated until sweet wines loosen my restraints, and my pain is not a river of black veils snaking across the mourner's bench, a tombstone in every bowed head. Tonight is the penultimate midnight, where promise and precipice kiss, astride the threshold of now or next. Regret stings my eyes, and I remember miles bleeding over the edge of a stage, and someone orders another drink, oblivious to the tinkling chill of hearing the unspeakable quilted into song. A breathing oath that swears that someday something beautiful will come to pass. Sometimes I dance naked in an herb-fragrant room as a tribute to the goddess of freedom. And sometimes I dance naked in a sweetly scented room as a tribute to the luscious flower beckoning me to her pillow. And then my pain is not a river of black veils snaking across the mourner's bench. Tonight I stand in tomorrow's doorway. My tongue is a hummingbird's flutter. My stammering heart is a ewer of falcon eyes. Monk has gone straight, no chaser. Mad monk, the dancing dervish, gone straight, No chaser, no chaser, no bim shall swing to parade with the wild Indians along Bourbon Street. Only a spell cast with bloodless bones. My fear of social sanction slights are too many to name or number. My ignorance keeps me sane. My ignorance drives me mad. I want you to know that midnight holds the key to neutrons firing in pleasure tempo. Merry is the moment that we dance. Merry are the times when pain is not a river of black veils snaking across the mourner's bench, a tombstone in every bowed head. Magically, I am still here breathing in the sterling starlight, a cowrie shell rattle and a horsehair wisp. Charms to clear a path for ankle bell dancers, for hope and squirm, for the hope squirming in my clenched fist. An illusion lures me into tomorrow and tomorrow into me, where I regret the need to run a race too often, run or list all of the things that I will never do again. Tonight at midnight, I will raise my glass and lean into tomorrow, where my pain is not yet a river of black veils snaking across the mourner's bench, not yet not yet a rock on the shoulder of my joy. When the next year looms, I cling to the dregs of times past and shudder at times yet to come. And then I silently chant the words of the great prophet Charlie Parker, who said, now's the time, now's the time. The clock's face calms me, and I become a dropping ball, cocooned in the tiny crevice that divides what was from what will be. Happy New Year. Thank you.
Got to do the snaps. Got to. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. Next and finally, we will have, we're still checking for our brother Felton. So, Felton, as soon as you pop in, I got you. But next we have Miss Kimberly A. Collins. Kimberly A. Collins is a published poet and writer who teaches English at Howard University. Hey, you know, I had to do it. Sorry. She is the author of Bessie's Resurrection, Indolent Books in 2019. Choose You, Wednesday Wisdom to Wake Your Soul, Amazon Books 2018, and Slightly Off Center, a Callaloo Fellow. Nominated for her Pushcart Prize, her additional writings appear in major anthologies and magazines. She currently lives in Washington, D.C. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Kimberly A. Collins. I had to do it. Sorry.
No problem, no problem. Hello, so glad for the invitation. I really appreciate it, and especially I'm humbled to be here with one of my favorites, which is Robert Earl Price, who taught me a lot about poetry during my tenure with the First World Writers Group in Atlanta. I was the baby of the group at that time, but babies grow up. I'm going to share the first two poems that I'm going to share this evening are forthcoming in an anthology called Where We Stand, Poems of Black Resilience, and that's due out February 2021. This poem also is a poem that I wrote for my grandmother on her 100th birthday. She just turned 103 on December 1st. So I just thought it was fitting that I give a shout out to Ethel Collins. Pillow Talk. Downy, soft, crisp, white lace sheets hug our necks. Nestle me in grandma's bed. It is good here with her. Our crooked pinkies lock our luck. Her lemon meringue skin, a favorite, not always treasured. She sat up front before Rosa, rode a bus to march on Washington before being pushed to the back of her dark man's dreams. Night's cool crinkles our covers. Her secrets lasso, swirl, catch me up in 103 years of living. Seeing a girl turn woman as sea breeze, all black shore. Juke joints full with loud men, conch sandwiches, boat rides, rascals dressed in up to no good night. She feels free. No husband, babies, no Northern liberation lies fleeing Jim Crow. Sinking into slumber, she notes how love hides itself, runs short sometimes, how it can be all sanctified, saving a soul or taking her someplace she don't need to go. Night slips off its shade. We don't sleep much. Grandmom's spying a place where dreams jump moons, where tears wet rainbows. My grandson is now 4 years old, and I thought that I would have written a poem for him when he was first born, but it couldn't come amidst everything that was happening with the young boys being shot down for just holding their hands in the air, eating a sandwich, or just walking. And so this poem is called I Swallowed a Poem Today. Whisper the baby's name 3 times, crossing over water. Mama Gertrude. There is no water here. His passageway, a bloody river, fist, feet fitting my palm. His beautiful crown of hair, a spell on him, my prayer sung thrice. Sound tangled, gossamer rattling, ghost. Emmett, Eric, India, Trayvon, Tamir, Sandra, snuffed, smothered. Somebody's babies, bereft of light. Their blood does not cover him. Hymns, dashing, washing bodies in rigor mortis pose. I do not write a poem for my grandson. I sing in prayer. This next piece was performed as part of Liberated Muses celebration for Toni Morrison at the Kennedy Center. Toni Morrison, if anybody knows me, was one of my favorite authors. So this is the prose for Toni. In this here place, we flesh their weeps, laugh, flesh their dances on bare feet in grass. Love it hard. Baby sugs without practice, hymnal or choir. Sermons, praise dancers leaping from weeping trees, crimson streamers in hand, casting spells lifted off tongues of world-weathered naked belly women. Sliding around life on flattened slipperbacks or no shoes at all, chewing, always chewing, gnashing on wisdom-wet tails, tilting bodies into lean, posting up at furnaces hot with memory, a paradise lost. Browning blue-eyed wishes died in communal longing, worrying about the edges of their hair. Their cuckoo berries kneeling in perms, worshiping love-weary Black men. Everybody want the life of a Black man. Everybody. And Black women, they want your whole self. Can't she criticize whom she loves? It is about love. Songs, sobbing, soughing into brisk winds, stinging creased skins. Our survival needing 7 days to write it. Flight being an acceptable option, homemade papier-mâché Superman cloak wings, ascending claw-foot spirits, ancestral myths, wrapping damp, drooping dreams for departure, homeward bound. Toni was just cool. Round midnight, words to a monk melody, cool. Talking, walking New York streets down a Soul Train line, bumping afros with Angela Davis, cool. Smooth talking guitar, cool. You think because he doesn't love you that you are worthless, that he's correct? You can't lose what you don't own. Sula cool, sitting there with that yellow ribbon in her hair, getting chumped by love because she forgot love can snuggle, pinch, move on without clamps, wrenches, or screws, keeping it in place. Shadrach said, always. Bow-legged, walking madness, treading water enough to quench thirst, too much to avoid suicide. Always a vigil on present dangers. She was so cool. She didn't need clay or crayons to make her own self, letting it drop like a plate if it must. She was a signifying shapeshifter, loosening operatic high notes, disrupting sound with love. She reached under America's skirt to pull up her umber hem. My final pieces will come from my book, Bessie's Resurrection. And just so everybody can see it, the cover was actually painted by Sam Gresham, who was actually one of First War Writers members as well. So she's a fantastic artist as well as poet, and I thank her for her creation for my book. The first poem that I'm going to read from my book is called Elishba. It's a real short poem, but I thought it was real instructive to find out that the name Elizabeth, Beth, all of that came from the African name Elishba. And I found this out from my good friend and mentor, Monifa Love Asante. And it means an oath pledged to God. She blinks at a nectarine sun, slices dawn, leaning into shade against a baobab tree. She's a tiny thing. Her breasts have not begun to bud. Onyx eyes sparkle as giraffes give awkward glide. Zebras prance in praise. She is safe. Winds shift. Blades of grass wiggle between her toes. She doesn't notice the animals halt away from the open plain. Too late. Her feet bolted, hands tied to splintered bark. She struggles. Dankness robs her day. Feces, urine supplant smells of her mother's peanut stew, left burning on an open flame. She is Elishba, a scattered prayer. The last poem that I'm going to read is called Why Bessie? And Bessie's Resurrection centers on the three Bessies, Bessie Mears, Bessie Coleman, and Bessie Smith. Why Bessie? Church, I want to ask you, why not Bessie? When you ask the Lord why me, he says, why not you? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Bessie was like any of you. She was Black, she was female, she was poor, she was in love, she was a daughter, she was a hard worker, just like any of you. Why Bessie? Why not Bessie? Her name conjures up sleeping souls rocked in the belly of slave ships. Her blues first explode there in the bowels of this hellish ship that docked her and our forefathers on this foreign shore. She came womb weary, having dumped her load in Yemiya's arms. She expels more seeds and planted rows after drinking pennyroyal tea. This was her open revolt. She refused to birth anyone that wasn't free. Her name is synonymous with both beast and woman. Teeth checked, nipples pinched, private parts probed in public places by pale-faced peeping toms. She is a muddied map of southern red clay stuck to her heels, plowing through stubborn earth, pulling weight that is never hers to turn over soil, to steal a yam, to cook, to remind her of home, where festivals welcome the yam's arrival. Church, I said church. I know Bessie Mears ain't the first Bessie you knowed. Who don't know an Aunt Bessie, Cousin Bessie, Grandma Bessie, Mama Bessie, Queen Bessie or that woman called Empress that y'all sneak to the juke joint to see. Even Mr. got a mule named Bessie. Her name is a collective song sung into meaning. It means she knows something about somebody trying to ride the will out of you. It means her gnarled knuckles will not allow rings of deceit to slide over them for an unkempt promise. It means her unlettered words from her fire breath speak her bruised beauty out of box lives. Bessie is the celestial charmer, the secret keeper of the soil's healing power. Bessie's name hums meaning into lives which are real and imagined and hard. Her name, like her life, was a subtle blues note, a slow moan heard while spooning stew. And church, I said, church, on that day when we thought she died, when they pulled her body out that cold chute, it was more than her that was raised from that place. No, brothers and sisters, Bessie didn't die in that chute. When she came up, all those Bessies who wear iron harnesses around their shoulders and on their backs, dragging unwanted weight, rose up too. Yes, all those Bessies who waited upon the Lord had their strength renewed and mounted up with wings as eagles. They ran and were not weary no more. All those Bessies whose mouths were silenced with leather bits came out with her that day. They escaped Shadrach, Abednego, and Meshach's fiery furnace of woe. She was Jesus who suffered the blunt trauma to his skin, but not his spirit, to rise again asking, do you remember me, church? Do you remember him, the one that died on Calvary, nailed to a wooden cross? You ask, why? Why him, this mighty lamb of the world? Why? Why, Bessie, a woman who looked just like you, blending all our nighted memories of kingdoms and queens buried in the dust tract of our tears. I'm going to close now. But before I leave here today, I want you all to chew on this in the front of your minds. They say Jesus had 12 disciples, but that ain't true. They forgot Mary Magdalene and Jesus' own mother. So why Bessie? Because Bessie was one of them too. Thank you. I can't hear you.
Let me unmute myself to say we didn't know we were going to church tonight. And you know, I had a cousin Bessie, and she was like one of my aunts, my mother's cousins, or maybe even my grandmother's cousin. So cousin Bessie. So we all have a Bessie in our life. So thank you so much for that. And I also want to go ahead and mention that we had intended on having Dr. Gloria Gayles here this evening, but she was unable to be with us. So we are looking forward to having her with us another time. I see that Felton is kind of in and out. I want to toss it to him, but before I toss it to Felton, I want to basically once again say that this is going to be the final Poetry Kitchen for this year. And we have had a fantastic run with Poetry Kitchen at the Hammons House Museum. And so if we were in person, I would be saying this, that we want to, in particular, thank Felton for curating such wonderful poets and great experiences. So when we do this at the Hammons House, the room is full and the poets keep everything lively and, really are inspiring to so many people that come to the Hammons House every month to see the Poetry Kitchen. So Felton, thank you very much for a long run. It's been we're going into, it'll be almost 4 years since we started the Poetry Kitchen at the Hammons House Museum. And so this has been a great experience. So right now, I want to go ahead and bring Felton up, and we're going to cross our fingers that he doesn't freeze up on us and that we get an opportunity to hear from Felton before we close this evening. So ladies and gentlemen, Felton Eaddy. Hey, Felton. Welcome.
Hello. You can hear me. You know James Corden? Anybody ever seen James Corden in his car with all of these people singing?
Felton, sorry, I'm gonna interrupt. You must have two devices going at the same time, and that's causing that crazy echo. So whatever the other device is, uh-oh. Oh no, why did I say that? Oh no. Everybody, please stand by. We just had him. It's this other device. This is technology, everyone, at its best. So if you can just give us like 2 more minutes, we're crossing our fingers that Felton comes back in. Leatrice, if you have any other comments or anything like that, while we hope that he pops back in maybe the next minute or so, please pop yourself back in. You're muted, by the way. You're muted.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, what I can do is talk a little bit about what we have coming up in 2021 while we wait for Felton to come on, and just kind of what people can look forward to. So the Hammond's House, we continue our programming. If you have been hanging out with us this year, then you know that we've had an extremely robust programming schedule. So not only have we been, presenting Felton Eaddy in the Poetry Kitchen. We've been presenting Carl Anthony with a show, Conversations about Jazz and Other Distractions, which comes on a couple times a month. We've been having other conversations and poets and music and just a little bit of everything. And so next year, we're going to continue the schedule. The doors will not open to the Hammond's House until we figure out what's going on with COVID. Because, with us being in the center of an African-American community, us serving a predominantly African-American audience, we just want to make sure that we do not do anything that's going to add to that. So opening an amazing show, which brings everyone out, we don't want to do that. So we do have a show by Charlie Palmer, which will be opening next year, as well as a show by Tracy Morrell. And right now we are kind of looking at the spring of 2021, just once again, waiting to see what happens with COVID. And because as you all know, because we're living this every day, it is a pivot, it's turns and it's twists and, everything. This is a great mystery, a story. It's a mystery. So we never know what's going to happen from day to day with this, but we're just waiting to see what happens. And then we'll be able to let you all know what's going to happen with the Hammond's House and when we can open our doors again, because Lord knows we look forward to it because we miss you all. But I see that Felton has popped back up. Robbie, why don't you let him in and let's see if we'll be able to hear him if there's no echo. Felton?
Hello.
I love it. I'm going to leave. Have at it.
No voice by choice or silent in the face of injustice. I see something. I say nothing. Cops in pursuit. I remain mute. Black body down, blood on the ground. I cannot speak, lips will not break. Open with voice, I have no choice. I see something, I say nothing. I'm no witness. Not my business, not curious, not furious. This is the code. White silence mode. I see something. I say nothing. Thanks to all of the poets who participated this evening. I tried my very best to be with you. I shall not bore you. Well, yeah, let me bore you with my trip to the church and now to the Verizon store. And now to finally get a chance to share a poem or two. I actually heard most of the readings, which I thoroughly enjoyed. wish that I'd been able to be there with you. This poem is called Trayvon's Stand. Boy with hoodie, boy not ready. Boy in dark night, boy don't want to fight. Regular store run, boy on cell phone. Boy all alone, left daddy home. Man with a gun, a Zimmerman, a killer man, a Zimmerman, a killer man, blood, red Skittles, lost to riddle. Florida town, he stood his ground. Trayvon Martin now underground, all 6 feet. Ritual repeat. There it goes again, the thump refrain. Fallen body, black boy body, almost nobody. I was supposed to write a poem about each of those black men that got killed in these very interesting circumstances, but I haven't gotten far. This poem is We Live with Risk. Recently, the city of Atlanta, Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs issued a call for poems about COVID. I mean, as if poets were able to process the whole issue of COVID immediately and generate a poem. Well, this is an excellent time for poetry. In fact, there's very little else that can speak for our current situation. Of course, visual artists would argue with me, and dramaturgs and all of the other arts disciplines would argue. And perhaps all of the arts disciplines are really critically important to us at this time because they allow us to feel instead of growing numb as we've become experiencing this COVID-19. This poem is called We Live with Risk. We live with risk. Let's start it again. We live with risk. Every day lies dormant, morning to noon all too soon, till twilight fades to midnight, one fused into another, resolute, as adamant about the cancellation of the weekend as the world's end. I had a little bird, its name was Enza. I opened up the window and in flew Enza. Social beings muted, transformed into griots, tell stories of the way it was. Every day is Tuesday. Everybody suspect. An unknown future looms, say the YouTube video prophets, born each day to forecast gloom from their own private rooms. Life is on loop. The bills are too. Endless spin cycle under review. We don mask and rubber gloves. We don mask and rubber gloves. One toxic sneeze or uncovered cough ramps up the fear. We count the dead in solitude, except for the stranger in our head or the solemn prisoner in our heart. We cannot gather to bear witness. Enough is enough, but apparently not. The rich have fun because the rich can run as fast as high-speed internet. All jobs are not online. All is not Amazon Prime. Uber Eats will not deliver, for the homeless have no shelter. The best solution is unknown, except for the blood of Jesus. We are not all in this together. We are not all in this together. We are not. This poem is called Streetlights, and it's about gentrification in Southwest Atlanta. Streetlights. They bring streetlights to the west side, illuminate potholes, increase police patrol on the west side. They jog out in the mean streets, walk those golden retrievers and corgis like the queen. Sun umbrellas, baby strollers, patty rollers, profile poverty on Ralph David Abernathy. Up the boulevard, no knock in the hood, no knock in the hood, nothing at Miss Katherine Johnson's door. But she ain't around anymore. November 21st, 2016, after 17 years in the bluff, she was rough and tough enough at 92. She fired back on the APD. She fired back on the APD. They killed her. They killed her. They are not innocent. They are not innocent. The Red Dogs, guerrilla tactics, mission, practice. They are not innocent. The Red Dogs. They come in from the north. These invaders. Long hours home to work, they bring street sweepers, brush away the residual matter, the homeless rags and dredges, the Katherine Johnsons of the West Side. They bring street lights to the West End. They bring street lights to the West End. Triple tax increase, Victorian homes and bungalows, watershed management, no low apartment rent, wide-ass sidewalks, bike lanes beside the bridge to the Beltline Blues. It's the latest news. The bridge to the Beltline Blues. Yeah. This poem is called Poem by the Mic, or Poem by the Microphone. She became obsessed by the mic. She became obsessed by the mic, with the mic, removed it from its upright stand, flashed red eyes in sudden command, tossed that mic from hand to hand, spit a new tune like a reggae band. Anxious about her depression, depressed about her anxiety, authority, seniority, majority, depressed about that anxiety, can't pass the test on sobriety. Paced from left to right of the stage, flipped that script from page to page, fired like a soldier dropping live grenades, spit that mic in a manic rage, possessed by the words of choice, obsessed by the echo of voice. She became blessed by the mic. Audience helplessly traumatized. She became micmatized, silly, hanging on seats, silly, stupefied, message misaligned and nullified, rolled up fully sanctified. She was micmatized. She was micmatized. You've been to a spoken word event, you might have encountered that poet. She was micmatized. It wasn't her fault that she kept on going, you know, I mean, she was micmatized. So I want to end with my signature poem, which I have no kalimba to. Actually, no, I'm sorry, that's not my final poem. Here's one more. It's called Love Gone Bye-Bye. Love gone bye-bye. Sadiqa sat solemnly peering out over the deck of her dream condo, talking to her yellow tabby cat, as if she were another woman, as if she could relate to every nuance, every gesture, every pressure, every measure of pain she felt, every blow she was dealt when her man left her alone, because he was long gone. As if Kitty knew intimately the wanton women of his infidelity, as if she was in the car as they drove down the surface streets, as if she was in the bars where he bought drinks and made propositions and indiscriminate decisions that led to the seduction. The gentle twirl of Kitty's tail flailing lightly in midair meant she understood how he could listen and laugh with sultry strangers, freely mix and mingle as if he were single, his gold band tucked away in his pocket, secured on his keychain, jockeying for power positions like the guys on a mission of choice to view the wide, dark, curved angles of women with precious goods to remember. And when Kitty suddenly turned her head like a weather vane, Sadiqa said, "You know, I'm sickened when I think of the times I almost let him touch me in places my grandmother said would make me weak, bringing me to the peak of paradise." And Kitty slowly stretched on all four and purred. Sadiqa saw his arms etched, tattered, trails of tattoos bearing other women's names, names and hearts that said forever and ever. Thought by now you'd be forever, but forever's gone away. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. Hey. Well, thank you very much for listening in this evening. We hope that you will spread the word about the Hammond's House and the Poetry Kitchen event that we have. And there is also a link at the Hammond's House site somewhere where you can become a member and support the Hammond's House financially. We'd appreciate it very much. Thank you very much. The Poetry Kitchen exists so that poets will have an opportunity to share their works with people who appreciate poetry, a very, very special individual.